Do high altitude masks work? Featuring the Gorge High Altitude Training Mask. You may have never heard of high altitude training masks before, but I'm sure you've seen them. Some people want to replicate the conditions of training at a high altitude while not actually being at high altitude, so they invest in a training mask. Training masks, elevation masks, high altitude masks, or whatever you choose to call them, are nothing to be alarmed about. They're pretty new on the scene, so their benefits aren't widely known. Training at high altitudes, or training in hypoxia, has been used by athletes for years, the idea being that it improves your potential. Explained simply, training in hypoxia, an oxygen-reduced environment, makes your body struggle to produce the energy that you need due to the fact that there's less oxygen in the air. Therefore, the body is more or less forced to get used to the lower levels of oxygen available. The lack of oxygen forces the body to adapt, meaning the efficiency of the cardiovascular and respiratory systems are enhanced. After training at hypoxia, you return to the normal atmosphere or sea level, and in this atmosphere you should be able to compete at a much higher level. Well, that's the idea anyway. So do high altitude training masks actually work? There's a real difference to actually being in a high altitude location versus trying to replicate a high altitude with a mask. When you're in a high altitude location, your air pressure is much lower, meaning there are much fewer air molecules, oxygen included. With the mask, you're training in an environment which doesn't have a lower air pressure, so you're pretty much being exposed to the same amount of oxygen. The real benefit of high altitude training comes from actually being in a high altitude location for a more prolonged period of time. Wearing the mask a few times a week for an hour or so just doesn't have the same effect. But they're not all bad. High altitude training masks do have their positive benefits, with regards to the increase in your heart rate, your VO2 max readings, and your power output. The best thing to do is to try a mask out for yourself and see if you feel any benefits. I will say that after wearing it for about an hour or so while running, my breathing felt very different. I felt as though every breath was a deep breath, and my breathing was much easier. Quite a strange feeling. So try it for yourself, high altitude training masks. I've left a link to the Gorge training mask in the section below if you want to try it out for yourself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out some of the other videos on the channel and drop a like and subscribe below. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.